I have worked this canyon country a long time, long enough to know that the desert kills in ways the ocean never bothered to invent, and the thing I keep coming back to, the thing I cannot put down, is that the yellow was so easy to see. A bright yellow outfit against red rock and brown water. You could see it from a long way off. You could see it right up until the water came, and then for a while you could not see anything at all. Welcome back to Doomed Departures. What you are about to hear is a composite story. It is built from real closures, real floods, and the real documented ways people die in slot canyons, but the two people at the center of it are an invention, assembled from 100 versions of the same afternoon. No real person is named here except the one I am about to make up a name for, so that you will feel his death the way I still do. Call him Eli. He was one of mine. The woman in yellow was not one of mine, but she became my responsibility the moment she stepped around a barricade. The way every reckless person in this park becomes the responsibility of someone who never agreed to die for them. It was Zion. In the narrow country, the slot canyons that make the postcards and the fatalities in roughly equal measure. If you have seen the photographs, the tall walls and the ribbon of sky, and the light coming down like something poured, then you have seen the exact place that a flash flood turns into a drain. Slot canyons do not flood the way a river floods, slowly, giving you time to argue with it. They flood the way a bathtub fills when the walls are 1,000 feet tall and the drain is you. Rain that falls miles away, on ground you cannot see, in weather you are not standing in, gathers into a wall of water and mud and rock and comes down the slot with no warning a body can outrun. That is why the rangers close these canyons, not when it is raining on the trail, when it might rain somewhere upstream. The closure is not about your sky, it is about a sky you cannot see. I have tried for years to make people understand this one thing, and I have mostly failed. So let me try it plainly here. The water that kills you in a slot canyon is not the water you can see. It is water that fell an hour ago. 40 miles away, on a mesa you will never walk. And it has spent that hour gathering, funneling off bare rock, doubling and doubling until it arrives at the narrow place as one moving wall. It does not rise, it arrives. And the walls that make the canyon beautiful, the ones that give you that ribbon of sky, are the exact reason there is nowhere to climb when it comes. You cannot outrun it because it moves faster than a person. You cannot climb out of it because the walls are the whole reason you came. The slot is a beautiful thing, built by pure geology to do one job perfectly, and that job is to concentrate a flood. She was in her 30s, fit, confident, and she was making a series. That was the word she used to the first ranger who stopped her at the mouth of the canyon that morning. A series as if the canyon were a set she had booked. There was a flash flood watch that day. The canyon was posted closed. The sign was not subtle, and the ranger was not subtle either. He told her what the closure meant, told her the way we are trained to tell people plainly, without drama, because drama is the thing that makes people stop listening. She smiled at him the way you smile at a doorman. She had a permit for the week. She had a schedule. She had, she explained, come a very long way, and the light in there was only good for a few hours, and she was not going to lose the shot to a sky that was, at that exact moment, blue. That was the first warning, and she stepped around it. There would be more. There is always a ladder of them in these stories, and the person climbs down every rung of it, convinced each one is just an obstacle and not a hand trying to hold them back. A second ranger radioed up from lower in the park about the weather building over the plateau. A pair of hikers coming out told her, to her face, that it felt wrong in there, that the wind had changed. A posted board at the junction gave the plain arithmetic of the watch. She had an answer for all of it, and the answer was always some version of the same thing. It looks fine to me, the most dangerous sentence in the entire desert. It looks fine to me from here right now with the sky I happen to be able to see. I have thought a great deal about that certainty, about where it comes from, because it is the same certainty in almost every one of these, and it does not look like arrogance from the inside. From the inside, it feels like confidence, like competence, like being the kind of person who does not get pushed around by fine print. She had built something on that feeling, an audience, a brand, though the word feels obscene next to what it cost. And an audience is a hard thing to disappoint. She had promised these canyons to people who would never stand in one, and somewhere in the arithmetic of a life lived for a lens, the promise to strangers had come to outweigh the warning from a man standing 3 feet in front of her, telling her the plain truth for free. Eli was 26. I want to tell you something about him that is not on any report. He was the one who stayed late to walk the last hikers out. He was the one who learned the names of the trail volunteers and the names of their dogs. He had come to the desert from a green place, and he had fallen for it the way the best of them fall for it, completely, without reservation, with the kind of love that makes a person careful and a little reckless at the same time, careful about the canyon and reckless about the people in it. I trained him. I told myself I trained him well. I go back over what I taught him and what I did not teach him more nights than I will admit to anyone. There is a photograph of him somewhere, one of 100 a volunteer took at a season-end cookout, and in it he is laughing at something out of frame with a paper plate balanced on one knee, and he looks exactly like what he was. A young man who had found the place he belonged. That is who went into the water. Not a statistic, not a line in an incident report. A kid who had a way of saying good morning that made you halfway believe the morning was, in fact, good. I have worked alongside a lot of people in this uniform who were competent. Eli was the rarer thing. He was kind and he was competent at the same time. And the desert has never once cared about either. The rain came where the rain comes miles away on the plateau, out of a corner of sky that was not over the canyon at all. By the time the water reached the slot, she was deep inside it, in the tightest section, the part where the walls come close enough to touch on both sides and there is nowhere to go but forward or back, and both of those are the same low ground. She heard it before she saw it. Everyone says that. A sound like a train, like the canyon clearing its throat, and then the light changed, and then the water was there, brown and loud and carrying the whole hillside with it. The call came up to us in fragments, the way they always do, a location that was wrong and then corrected, a description, and then the one word that turns an ordinary shift into the worst day of a life. Trapped. We were already moving before the word finished. You do not think in that first minute. You run toward the thing every instinct in your body is screaming at you to run away from, and you sort out the plan on the way, and the whole time some cold clerk in the back of your mind is already doing the math on how far the water is and how far you are, and whether those two numbers leave any room at all. Here is the part I have to be honest about, because Eli deserves honesty more than he deserves a clean story. He was not supposed to go in. We do not go into moving flood water in a slot. It is the one rule that is written in the plainest language we have, because the water does not care how strong you are or how good your intentions are, and a dead rescuer helps no one and costs everyone. Eli knew that rule better than I did. He went in anyway. He heard her, and he went into the one place all his training told him not to go, because he was 26, and he loved this place, and he could not stand at the edge of it and listen to a person drown. He got to her. I will never fully know how. He got to her in the tight section, and he got her up onto a ledge a shelf of rock a few feet above the churn, high enough to be the whole difference between a person who lives and a person who does not. He put her there. He put her there with his own hands and his own strength, and the last of both. And the water which does not make deals took the ledge he did not have. There is no gentle way to say the rest, and I am not going to dress it up for a video. He got her to the high ground. He did not get himself there. She lived because a man decided her life was worth more than the rule that would have kept him alive. And the canyon collected the price of that decision from him in full that afternoon. They got her out the next morning when the water dropped. She was cold and scraped and alive, entirely alive, and the first thing that mattered to her, the very first thing, was the camera. I was there, I heard it. Someone asked her, gently, the way you ask a person who has been through something, whether she understood what had happened, whether she understood about the ranger. And she looked into a lens that a friend was already holding, and she said it was not her fault. She said the canyon should have been better marked. She said she had no way of knowing. She used the word unfair. A man was dead on a rock a mile behind her, a man who had put her on the ledge she was standing on, and she used the word unfair about her schedule. The clip went out that same day. Of course it did. It did numbers, as she would have said. Strangers who had never smelled floodwater argued in the comments about whether the park was liable, whether a grown woman could really be expected to know. A few of them, a decent few, said the obvious thing about the ranger. And those comments sat far down the page where the sorting keeps the things that do not perform. Somewhere in that thread was the whole sickness of it. A man's death shrunk to a talking point in a stranger's argument about whose fault it was that a video got interrupted. I want to ask you something, and I want you to actually sit with it before you scroll. When you ignore a warning, who are you betting, not yourself? That is the lie at the center of all of this. You think you are risking your own neck, your own vacation, your own body, and so you tell yourself the risk is yours to take. It is not. Somewhere there is an Eli. Somewhere there is a 26-year-old who will go into the water after you because he cannot help it, because it is who he is. And the warning you stepped around was never there to protect you. It was there to protect him. Tell me in the comments about a warning you almost ignored, not to confess, to remember. Because the remembering is the whole point. You would think that would be the end of it. A person walks out of a canyon that killed the man who saved her, and you would think she walks out changed, or at least quiet. She was not quiet. She was back the next day. The series was not finished. That is the sentence I keep having to say out loud in order to believe it. The series was not finished, and the light in the slot was only good for a few hours, and there was, she felt, a shot she had not gotten, and the canyon had reopened lower down, where it was deemed safe, and she did not stay in the part that was deemed safe. She went back up into the narrow country to finish what she had started. I do not know how to explain to you the size of the certainty that takes to stand in the exact place a man died for you one day later and decide that the thing worth doing there is content. I was not going to send anyone in after her this time. I want to be clear about that, and I want to be clear about what it cost me to decide it, because it is the truest and worst thing in this whole story. When the second call came, and the weather was building again exactly as it had the day before, exactly as the closure had said it would, I gave the order that we would not enter moving water. We would stage. We would wait for the drop. We would do it by the rule that Eli broke, the rule I had not enforced hard enough the first time. And the canyon did what the canyon does to a person alone in a slot with the water coming and no one willing to die a second time in 2 days. It finished her series for her. There was nothing left to film. I will carry that order for the rest of my life. And I want to be careful about how I say why. Not because it was wrong. It was the only right call on the board, the call the rules exist to force, the call I should have forced the day before. I will carry it because it is a terrible thing to be correct about. To stand at the mouth of a canyon and choose coldly and correctly not to send another young person to their death for someone who had already spent one. Being right is not the same as being at peace. Eli went in, and I lost him. I did not go in, and I lost her. There is no version of those 2 days where I keep everyone. What peace I have is the peace of a man who ran out of other roads, not the peace of a man who was spared anything. People hear a story like this and they want to call it justice. I understand the pull of that word. I have felt it, standing where I stood, and I'm not going to pretend I have not. But I have buried a version of this too many times to enjoy it, and there is no justice in a slot canyon, only weather and rock and arithmetic. What there is symmetry, and symmetry is a colder thing than justice. She bet a life on a warning, and the first time, the life she spent was not her own. The second time, there was no one left to spend but herself. The canyon does not know the word karma. It only knows the difference between the people who listen and the people who do not. And it keeps that ledger in the one currency it has. If this story has done anything to the way you will read the next closed sign you see, then do the small thing that puts it in front of the next person who needs it. Like this video, because that is the entire reason it reaches someone before they step around a barricade instead of after. Subscribe so you are here for the next one. Not for me and not for a number on a screen, for the ranger who will be sent in after the next person who decides the warning is about them. Be one of the ones who makes sure he never has to go. The last clear thing anybody saw was the yellow, and I have thought 1,000 times about how visible she was and how invisible the thing that mattered was. Nobody photographs a closure, nobody makes a series about the sky you cannot see. Eli spent his whole short life learning to read the weather that was not over his head, the danger that lived somewhere upstream and out of frame. And he died because he understood it and went in anyway, and she died because she never once believed it was real. Between those two deaths is the entire distance between respecting a place and using it. I still see the yellow when I close my eyes, not as a color anymore, as a lesson I could not teach fast enough. The warning was never about her. It was about the ones we send in when the warnings fail. And they fail every time someone decides the sky they can see is the only sky there is. Next time we leave the water behind and go somewhere the danger does not announce itself with a sound at all, somewhere the ground and the heat do the lying instead. Until then, read the sign, believe the sky you cannot see. And if a person in a flat hat tells you a place is closed, understand that they are not protecting the place from you. They are protecting themselves from what you are about to make them do. And that is the part one cannot make softer, because people love to talk about nature like it is personal, like the mountain punished someone, like the river chose someone, like the canyon took revenge. It did not. That is the comfort we invent after the fact, because it is easier to believe in judgment than in indifference. The canyon was not angry at her. It was not grateful to Eli. It did not know which one was selfish and which one was brave. It did not know which body belonged to the person who stepped around the warning, and which body belonged to the person who ran toward her anyway. It only knew volume, speed, gravity, and stone. That is what makes these places so hard to explain to people who have only seen them through a screen. Beauty makes a promise it has no intention of keeping. The light comes down perfect. The walls glow. The silence feels sacred. And because it feels sacred, people mistake it for safe. That the desert does not become safer because it is beautiful. The ocean does not become kinder because the sunset is pretty. A canyon does not become less lethal because it looks good on camera. The danger is not hidden because the place wants to trick you. The danger is hidden because you have not learned how to see it yet. That is what Eli understood. That a closed sign is not there to ruin a day. It is not there to protect a schedule, or a brand, or a vacation. It is there because someone has already done the ugly math for you. Someone has looked upstream. Someone has read the weather you cannot see. Someone has imagined the rescue before you ever needed one. And maybe that is the only lesson worth leaving here. When a place tells you no, believe it the first time.